Why you have to make all these excuses for her? This, like I said, all this was this week was people who said, "Oh, she ran a flawless campaign. How ridiculous!" Or it's sexism, it's racism. This is an old playbook.
Yes, I didn't say any of those things.
I know, but I've heard a lot of these things, and I think America's perfectly willing to elect a woman. They just didn't like the last two that were put up.
The vice president to Joe Biden, whether it was a male, female, black, white, or anything else, was going to have a giant political albatross around their neck, and they could perform perfectly or perform imperfectly. But that person was going to be at a disadvantage.
She didn't make a good case.
Well,
she didn't denounce the past stuff that people didn't like. She just tried to ignore it.
Bill Maher is absolutely on fire. And this time, he's ripping apart the tired talking points of yet another MSNBC guest. The internet is eating it up, and honestly, at this rate, MSNBC might want to think twice before stepping onto Maher's turf. His takedowns are getting so sharp, it's borderline embarrassing. So who stepped into the hot seat this time? And what exactly did Maher say that left them scrambling to recover? We've got all the details coming up. But before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more bold breakdowns and viral moments like this. 1.
Everything the candidates, especially the Democrats, do to get voters annoys them. The constant texting. Did you get the texts from Tim Walz every 5 minutes, and always begging for money and knocking on doors? We've got people knocking on doors. People don't want knocking on your door. Who in this day and age wants someone knocking on? Kids don't even like it when a phone call. That's like too much of a invasion of their privacy.
Bill Maher didn't hold back as he expertly exposed the cracks in John Heilman's logic on MSNBC. Heilman tried to argue that Kamala Harris lost traction because her message just didn't resonate, but Maher quickly shut that down. According to him, it wasn't the message, it was the medium. While Democrats stuck to friendly legacy platforms like MSNBC and CNN, Trump was out there tapping into massive, more neutral audiences through Joe Rogan, Theo Vaughn, and others. And when that old-school media strategy flopped, the left panicked, resorting to spammy texts and door-to-door tactics that felt more invasive than persuasive. Instead of meeting people where they actually are, they just kept shouting from the same echo chamber, and it backfired.
Emerge as the strongest Democratic opposition leader in the next Trump era. Oh, well, that's a good question. I mean, like Adam Schiff, he won, right, big. And
he won big. I like Westmore.
Westmore's fantastic. He's in Maryland.
Yep.
But who's going to be the one? Gavin Newsom, we have here in this state. He's already called the legislature to. Trump hasn't done anything yet, but I understand
Is this journalist even talking about? The Democrats already had their message. They just expected Kamala Harris to echo it and magically win hearts. But here's where they completely missed the plot. Americans weren't listening to polished speeches or party-approved narratives. They were reacting to real life. Skyrocketing inflation, rising crime, and a wide-open border weren't talking points. They were daily struggles. Voters didn't care about slogans. They cared about survival. And even if Biden was operating at full capacity, it wouldn't have saved them. The issue wasn't just the messenger, it was the message itself. And by the time voters hit the polls, they'd already tuned it out.
They set Kamala Harris up to fail. That was a 3-month campaign, and she was supposed to introduce herself to the American people. No wonder people were Googling, did Joe Biden drop out? And so...
No. No. You're saying 3 months wasn't long enough? It was too long.
It was long enough.
It was long enough.
If they had a primary...
It's not that they didn't have time to introduce. They met someone they didn't like.
Once again, Bill Maher nails it. The Democrats didn't suffer from a shortage of qualified candidates. They had plenty. As Michael Douglas pointed out, they had a solid bench. Experienced governors, senators, and rising stars all ready to step up. But they weren't picked. Why? Because the party got caught up in identity politics instead of prioritizing leadership. The focus wasn't on merit, it was on optics. Choosing a black female VP wasn't about who was best for the job. It was about checking boxes and signaling inclusivity. But politics isn't performance art, It's about solving real problems. Voters don't just want representation, they want results. And when leadership feels like theater, people tune out. That obsession with symbolism over substance? It backfired. Badly. And it might explain why Democrats are facing a massive political backlash.
You get put on elevated to the top of the ticket 107 days ahead of the election. I think that is a very high degree of difficulty put on anybody. And I do not think she is the perfect candidate. I tend to agree with Sarah that probably in a fully litigated primary, she probably would not have been the Democratic nominee, but we'll never know that. But I will tell you that, there's never been anybody who's had the difficulty of that situation, elevated that late in the campaign.
Why? What? To run away from
Bill, I don't know if you know this, but the Vice President of the United States is basically shoved in a broom closet for 3.5 years.
I know.
You couldn't.
She was more popular in there.
Yes, well.
Second this. Right here is the exact mindset that keeps sinking the Democrats. Underestimating the American people. John Heilman of MSNBC actually said Bill Maher was giving voters too much credit by saying 3 months was enough time to make a decision? Seriously? Is that how the woke left sees us, like we're too slow, too dumb to figure things out for ourselves? No wonder another MSNBC host had the audacity to say Americans don't even know what they want. Newsflash, we do. And it's not some spineless puppet parroting woke talking points. Americans want real leaders. Leaders who respect our intelligence, understand our daily struggles, and actually fight for us. The left can keep treating voters like we're clueless, but come election day, they'll get a loud, clear message. We know exactly what we want and we're voting for it. Now let's keep the clip.
A universally known, understood, loved by some, hated by others over the course of being omnipresent for 8 years.
Okay.
Barack Obama becomes president of the United States after running for 2 years as president, runs a 50-state primary, is on television, does dozens of Democratic debates. And by the time at the end of that, most people knew who he was. Most people.
Yeah.
You drop somebody into the middle of the top of the ticket, 3 days out, 3 months out. You are going to have to spend a lot of time trying to introduce yourself to the country.
That's exactly my point. Some countries manage to run full elections in just weeks, efficient, decisive, and focused. Meanwhile, the Democrats are dragging their feet, acting like Americans need hand-holding. With that mindset, they belong in the opposition. They're completely missing the obvious. Their economic mismanagement, tone-deaf policies, and obsession with optics are exactly what landed them in this mess. Americans aren't gullible. We're sharp, aware, and we remember what real leadership felt like. Under Trump, we had stronger borders, a stable economy, and a sense of security for our families and future. This wasn't just about jobs or inflation. It was about trust and competence. And let's be real, Biden would have lost no matter who. They ran. Kamala? Newsom? Whitmer? It didn't matter. The issue wasn't just the face, it was the entire failed agenda. Until the Democrats realize that they'll keep losing the people they claim to represent.
Elections in America, but it's not like we don't know. In Britain, for instance, when you have a short election, it's not like you don't know who the leader of the party is for months and years before that.
But you're either the person who's Googling the day before, did Biden drop out, or you know in a week. You know, did anyone in this audience not know enough about Kamala Harris pretty much after a week to make a decision? Yeah, people. It's ridiculous. They just, like I said, all this was this week was people who said, "Oh, she ran a flawless campaign. How ridiculous!" Or it's racism. This is an old playbook.
Yes, I didn't say any of those things.
I know, but I've heard a lot of these things, and I think America's perfectly willing to elect a woman. They just didn't.
Trust me, if Kamala Harris had broken free from the woke left agenda and offered a bold, grounded alternative within Biden's campaign, the political map could look very different today. Picture this. A vice president who tackled the economy head-on, spoke clearly on border security, addressed rising crime, and acknowledged the crushing cost of living. If she had ditched the extreme rhetoric and embraced real solutions that reflected what everyday Americans actually care about, she wouldn't just be doing better, she could be winning. Or at least making it a real fight. But instead, she clung to the same tired narrative that voters had already rejected. And it's not just Bill Maher calling this out. Even actor and comedian Russell Brand has taken shots at John Heilemann, blasting him for his blatant hypocrisy and hollow talking points. The frustration is building, and it's not just on the right.
See, mate, it was propagandist nutcrackery on there. I went on the show called Morning Joe. It was absurd the way they carried on.
Good morning, Joe.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. It wasn't morning. There was no one called Joe there. No one could concentrate. They didn't understand the basic tenets of journalism. No one was willing to stick up for genuine American heroes.
Brand is absolutely right. MSNBC has morphed into a full-blown propaganda outlet for the woke left, and they prove it time and time again. Despite Bill Maher repeatedly pointing out that Kamala Harris's message just didn't resonate with the American people, John Heilemann refused to get it. He wasn't listening, he was defending a narrative, not facing facts. That's the danger of echo chambers. They're so busy patting themselves on the back, they miss the obvious truth staring them in the face. At the end of the day, Bill Maher isn't just sparring with guests, he's exposing the cracks in their logic. And if MSNBC pundits keep showing up to his show unprepared, they're going to keep getting humbled in front of millions. The message is clear. Bring better arguments or get ready for a brutal reality check. That's it for today. If you found this breakdown satisfying, smash that like button, subscribe for more sharp commentary, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.